So I have a confession. I'm going to blow the budget a little bit, but it is worth it. This shifter fitment here looks a little bit easier to execute than all that remote BS I was going to have to deal with. I don't know if you can see what trans that is. Some people will know. Now, we saw in the last video how this 5-speed fit. And just for shits and gigs, I fit my Camaro 6-speed, and it fits amazing. So that's the direction I'm going to go with it. It's definitely more money. It's going to take my $5,000 budget and make it about $7 total. But everything about it is better. The gearing's better, strength is better, fitment's better, everything. So it's going to be worth it. With these relatively short factory wheels and tires, and I want to keep this factory look, it was going to be like 2,700 RPM at 75 miles an hour with this 5-speed because they don't have a very deep fifth because they have a 29 or 31-inch tire. Well, 29, I think, for all the two-wheel drives like that trans came out of. But this one here, with the deep 6 gear on the 6-speed, I'm only going to be like 1,900, 2,000 RPM at 75, and I do plan on getting some highway miles on this thing. Oh, yes. Here we go. Reverse mount pedals. Okay, my triple master cylinders came in for the Beretta. They've got this remote remote reservoir deal because they're going to be underneath the dash, and I can actually stick this out in the engine bay where I can get to it. I got 2 3/4 and a 7. Ooh. Speedway sent me the wrong stuff. I know I ordered 2 3/4 and a 7/8 because I did all the brake math to figure out brake bias and the clutch, and I needed 2 3/4 and a 7/8, so I'll have to get an exchange going on these. But they're pretty cool. These bolt right into the Willwood pedals, and then when you have them next to each other, they have the balance bar to be able to set your bias the way you need it. And they come with fittings. This has a straight fitting. They got AN and inverted flare. I'll probably do inverted flare just because it's cheap, and why not? But I think I'm going to do a 90 fitting. I guess I'll have to get them mocked up underneath and see how much space they actually take up, because I can bend a brake line pretty tight and keep decent clearance. But I think these will work halfway decent. I'm undecided yet if I'm going to have one brake reservoir and then tee it to the 2 masters, or do 2 and then a clutch one separate. I may do 3 reservoirs total, or I might be able to share that one for the brakes. We'll see. Okay, I'm doing a little fine tuning in the engine bay here for the radiator with my precision tool again. So this part is structural. I didn't want to cut it, so I just bashed the piss out of it. And now I'll be able to take the radiator and slide it a little further forward, give me a little bit more room. Okay, this here I'm pretty happy with. Hell yes, check this out. So that's the factory top rubber isolator thing, and these bottom isolators fit pretty good. All I did was flip them. So like here's one where the little rubber nipple on there is centered. On the bottom, they're offset to one side, and you can see this little spot here is sort of the center line of where the rubber piece used to be. So all I did was flip it back, and that pushes the rubber isolator back that way, closer to the front, giving me more room. Looks like I got a little bit of work to make that perfect. But after making some clearance here on the side, over here too, it fits really, really good. And this works out nice here too. So this nipple here is going to go to the coolant tank, or sorry, this line on the coolant tank, just like it did from the factory. This goes to the lower radiator hose, and this one is going to go to the steam port for the LS. So I don't have to do anything funky with the radiator hoses either, like those retrofit LS radiators. This Beretta one was already set up perfect. And this is how it looks from the front side. Used to be quite a big gap on that. Now we're pushed forward, and I'm gonna have to check the hood latch and make sure that's still happy and everything. So maybe this will have to angle back a little bit that is possible. I'm going to make a little mount for it just to keep it in place. But I think that's going to work pretty well. All right, here I'm starting to modify these engine mounts. This one's the passenger side. So this comes down and touches the subframe, so I can get that tacked in there and everything. I made this clearance cut. That's warm. Made the clearance cut here so that I have room for the steering rack, because the tie rod's going to have to come through there pretty close. But I'm going to take a piece of really heavy wall rectangle tube and run that down the side here and tie that in, so I'll have plenty of strength for it. Mounts tacked in here. I'm going to burn those in fully, do a little cleanup work here. Eventually, this subframe is going to be connected here where the steering rack goes through, and I'm going to have another brace going in the back since I had to cut out some of the structure of the unibody. So the subframe itself is going to add structure to the unibody when it's bolted in. Get it up in the air now so I can do floor work. Okay, here I got side one done last night, and today I got the passenger side to do. Get that ready. All right, all done. Ain't that beautiful? I know, not really beautiful, but it's done. Air chiseled all this stuff off the floor, and now I'm going to put it back in and test fit it. So here is the floor, about 3 inches higher than it used to be, and calibrated eyeball was pretty close as far as getting these cuts all right. Now I'm just going to have to use the BFH as a persuader to make this fit a little bit better, and probably some self-tappers, get an idea where this thing's actually going to run, and then I want to sort of match up my cross member that I'm doing with one of these rails. I could put it right in the center too, but get it all figured out before I burn everything in. Got my money's worth of that cutoff wheel. So this is going to be the trans cross member. I notched it for that angle iron that ran down the rockers, and this is going to take the weight of the suspension. Okay, the cross member is in. I got the beginning part of my drive shaft loop welded up. I'm going to create a little truss on top of that for strength, and now I'm cutting up the back half of the floor to sit in that spot. Whew, I'm friggin' beat, and I did not get done what I wanted this weekend. Close, don't quite have the trans mounted. The T56 deal, figuring out what I want to do for 6-speed, took up some more time. I spent some time researching where I could find one, so I still got one for the Camaro too. But it's going to be a lot better car in the long run, so the time is worth it. So the trans is still sitting on a jack. The engine is mounted. Wheel dolly's all gone. Engine is mounted for good. So that's progress I'm happy with. But the trans itself isn't mounted yet. I still got to do the mount there. I haven't done the torque arm mount yet. I got the rear floor sort of mocked back in place. Held in place with a couple self-tappers right now. I can weld and hammer that together and that'll fit pretty decent. Room for the drive shaft right in the very back. Looks like it might leave a little to be desired there. So there's probably going to be a little bit of tunnel work there. But overall, it fits pretty decent. And got half the floor in. I'm going to take measurements from the rocker to the trans itself. And then transfer those measurements from the rocker across the floor. And then take a big cut out of this bad boy. And mock up the front part of the floor too. So when you tune in next week, the transmission should be totally mounted and the torque arm too. And I can put this thing back on its weight and be in pretty good shape.